Today's episode is made possible by Affinity Solutions. Unlock your business's potential with actionable insights into consumer spending, powered by Affinity Solutions. With exclusive insights from over 140 million cards, Affinity Solutions showcases consumer purchase behavior with unprecedented clarity. Seize the opportunity to reshape your strategy with accuracy, execute with precision, and measure with confidence. Affinity Solutions equips you to outperform in today's competitive landscape. Step into the future of analytics with Affinity Solutions today.
I think they are legitimately trying to act in the interest of consumer privacy. So I think they really are looking across these business practices and finding that not only do they go against privacy interests, but they also are very anti-competitive.
Hey gang, it's Monday, December 11th. Paul, Suzy, Max, and listeners, welcome to the Behind the Numbers Daily, an e-marketer podcast made possible by Affinity Solutions. I'm Marcus. Today I'm joined by three people. Let's meet them. We start with our VP of Content, who heads up our retail and e-commerce team based in New York. It's Suzy Davidkhanian.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hello. Why, of course. We're also joined by one of our VPs of content who heads up our global coverage on advertising and media, tech and social. He's based just above the city. It's Paul Verna.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, indeed. And finally, we have one of our senior analysts on the digital advertising and media desk based in Philadelphia. It's Max Willens.
Yo.
Hello, sir. So today's fact, folks. Didn't have one right up until about 3 minutes ago. But I've got this really interesting book here, and it's telling me, and I went and checked this on the Library of Congress site. So this is true. I wonder if any of you guys knew this, to be honest, not just the American folks. How many states are there in the USA? Technically, only 46. Virginia, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts are all officially what?
Commonwealth.
Yes! Did you, Paul, why didn't you tell me this as soon as we met?
Wait, they're Commonwealth part of Canada, you mean?
No, that doesn't mean they're part of Canada, Suzy. So this grants them no special constitutional powers. In fact, constitutionally, there's no difference between a state or a commonwealth. But they simply chose this word to describe themselves at the end of the War of Independence. It made clear they were no longer royal colonies answering to the king, but states governed by the common consent of the people. Virginia, named after the Virgin Queen Elizabeth I, was one of the 13 original and declared itself a commonwealth in 1776. Pennsylvania and Massachusetts followed shortly afterwards. Kentucky was originally a county of Virginia, became a commonwealth in 1792. What?
Another small trivia item, since you mentioned Massachusetts, the Commonwealth thereof. So Maine, the state that I lived for so many years in and have so many ties to, was once part of Massachusetts, and they broke off, I think, 200 years ago. So they recently had the bicentennial of becoming their own state.
What is going on?
Sounds like to me it was over beaver pelt.
I was thinking clam chowder.
Yeah, I know what you were thinking, Suzy. You were thinking you should have, that Canada should have annexed Maine, but sorry.
It's kind of already part of Canada.
You have enough space, Canada, okay?
Yeah, you're number 2 in surface area among all countries in the world.
And if your population's smaller than California. The two other Commonwealths, Puerto Rico, obviously, and the Northern Mariana Islands.
Oh, that one I didn't know.
Which way is up anymore, folks? My goodness, which way is up? My world is shattered. Let's get on with the episode. Today's real topic, very specific but highly unlikely predictions for 2024, Shark Tank style. All right, folks, in today's episode, we'll cover some very specific but highly unlikely predictions for next year. No, in other news, we have too many fantastical predictions to make. Let's get on with it. So, we do this episode twice a year. And so last year, a year ago, and also in the summer, we made some predictions on 2023. Some for the first half, some for the second half. So we wanted to check in on those first to see how we did. Pretty damn good, it turns out. So which ones were home runs? TV ad measurement won't get a single currency. True, hasn't yet. Instacart will IPO. Yep, finally did September 19th. Ad support for Instagram threads will be thin, putting it mildly. Meta's ad rebound will continue through the rest of the year. Q1, Q2, Q3. They've all grown 4, 12, and then 24%, so that's true. Search ads won't be a slam dunk for TikTok. Spot on. Bob Iger's sequel won't be as good as the original. Nailed it, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, it begs the question, are these really unlikely predictions if we're like,
No.
pretty much
changed the name.
on the mark?
I thought that was the assignment. Likely predictions.
No, it was unlikely. There was a
Wow.
You never listen,
prefix
Suzy.
at the beginning of that sentence.
Why I bother?
But on the Disney one, Bob Iger just very recently said, I knew that there were a myriad of challenges. I must say that there were many more of them than I expected. So that's not exactly confirming the prediction, but it gets, I think, as close as he's probably going to get to admitting that it's definitely harder the second time around.
Not as good as Act 1, definitely. So they're the ones we nailed. Close calls, here's a list of those. So the writer's strike will be longer than the last one. The writer's strike was 6 days shy of the record in 1988. That lasted 154 days, so we were close on that.
But wait.
Oh.
There was a writer's strike in 2007, and this one was longer than that one.
Oh, than the last one. Yes, good point. Not than put it in the home run category. Yep. That's true. We did say that.
Are we
all right, we nailed that one. Yes, we are, and it's completely
We're just going
legitimate.
With the facts.
Yeah,
we're
amazing.
With the facts.
Kind of. Subscriptions will be a temporary dalliance for Snap and Twitter. Neither will get many signups. Half right. Snapchat Plus has 5 million subscribers, which is pretty damn impressive. In August, Mashable reported less than 1 million folks, though, are paying for X Premium. So that one, not so much. Linda Yaccarino won't last the year. She's clinging on for dear life. Amazon redefining advertising with closed-loop measurement on Thursday Night Football and retail media. Certainly pushing the envelope. Walmart will be 2023's runaway retailer. Suzy, that's faring pretty well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it all just depended on how we decided to define runaway. They are definitely, according to our forecasts, are very, very much in the lead when it comes to growth. They're twice as big as Target, but there's still a very big gap between Walmart and Amazon. So from a growth perspective, definitely runaway.
Okay, it's not bad. And then the ones we couldn't be more wrong on, Microsoft will buy Roku. Nope. Amazon's e-commerce growth will continue to struggle. They've only improved as the year has gone on. And Be Real will launch a PR push. Not heard much from them lately. So not bad, folks. Not bad at all. So shout out to Paul, Debbie, and Andrew, who made those predictions 6 months ago. We've got some new folks joining us for this episode. So welcome in to Max and Suzy. And we've got a couple of new folks and also a new format. So here's how the episode will work. Each person, Max is first, will have 60 seconds to pitch a very specific but highly unlikely prediction for 2024. Then the rest of us, me, Paul, and Suzy, and you folks listening, will decide if we are going to invest, air quotes, in his prediction. Invest meaning, do we believe in it? Then we move on to the next contestant, and then we basically repeat that. So Suzy will be next, and then me, Max, and Paul will become the panel. Each of our guests, Max, Suzy, and Paul, have a prediction each. Let's do it. So, 60 seconds on the clock. Thank you, V, who edits the show. Max, you're up first, fella. What's your first pitch?
All right. So, I know that everybody assembled likes highly specific, highly unlikely to occur things. And have I got a highly specific, highly unlikely to occur thing for you? Everybody often likes to play a parlor game involving Apple and Disney, suggesting that one thing that would really help turbocharge Apple's services business and its TV business would be to acquire Disney, because Disney owns its own library of children's entertainment. It owns Lucasfilm. It owns ESPN, and what is seen as kind of a peerless starter kit. But I am here to propose that instead of buying Disney, Apple should buy Warner Brothers Discovery. Apple has never shown much interest in making things that are aimed specifically at children. And if you look at the sort of adult library and barrels of IP that it has, WBD's is much richer. And really the only thing that is afflicting WBD at the moment is the debt that they are constantly being forced to service. And Apple could wipe that out with a snap of its $1 trillion in cash fingers. So I think that Apple should buy WBD instead of Disney.
So we talked about Bob Iger before, and another revealing thing he said at this conference very recently was that essentially the potential sale of the linear TV networks that he had said was pretty much a done deal when he basically said that they were non-core assets and he was putting them on the block. He's backtracked on that. So that actually influenced the predictions that I chose to make. So I was actually going to double down. Before that, I had thought about doubling down on the one that Max mentioned about Apple and Disney, but I definitely shied away from it because of that, though I had not thought it through. I was just simply going to not go there. But then I think when Max brought this up, it seemed very possible and a very well, founded idea as far as, which company Apple might buy. So I think this is a good one. I do think, though, that in the past when we predicted acquisitions, they pretty much never happened, at least in that time frame. So, whether this one actually happens or not, I don't know. But I think it does make a lot of sense for the reasons that Max presented.
So does this one move the needle enough for Apple for them to take? I mean, because like you said, it's a lot of debt, and they would be getting the Max streaming service, they'd be getting Discovery Plus, but those services are fourth, fifth, maybe a bit further down in terms of the main streaming services. Do you think that this is going to move the needle enough for Apple, Max?
I do. I mean, I think that the key reason, or one of the things that you're going to start to see now that the sort of first wave of the land grab is over, is you're going to start to see more and more companies talk about bundling. And you already see this with Apple and Paramount supposedly kicking the tires on a bundle of Apple TV Plus and Paramount Plus. But I've got a great solution for the kind of lagging or flagging subscriber growth, and that's bundling with an iPhone. Imagine you buy the iPhone 15 and you just get Max for a year. Hell, you get it for 2 years. Hell, you drop the price to, let's call it, they can play the game all over again of dropping the price back to what Disney et al. Charged at the very beginning. If the name of the game is driving subscriber growth, they could just say, guess what? If you haven't signed up for Max yet, you can get it for 2 years at $8 a month. Or if you buy an iPhone next year, you get it for free for a year. That's a very easy way to solve that problem.
You know what I think?
The only thing...
If it's for... Sorry, no, because I was going to change the topic.
But I'm busy selling you guys.
But I need a different data point from you to feel sold. So what I would like to better understand is if the deal is about bringing on kids entertainment, I actually don't know that this is how they're entertained these days. So is that really for Apple to find different ways of becoming more stream subscription sort of revenue, or is it to get a whole new customer viewer segment?
No, so the way I look at it is, I think that what Apple needs more than anything is they want to build their ad business, and they want to build their TV business. The two are really quite closely linked. And I just think that if that's the goal, then a library like WBD's is a lot stronger and a lot more dynamic and multidimensional than Disney's is.
Oh.
I mean, when people first started lobbing this idea around, that was back when it seemed like Disney had this kind of Midas touch. Every movie they put out seemed to gross $1 billion. The IP that they had just looked like the shiniest of crown jewels. And then, you look back at this past year, and the number one grossing movie in 2023 is Barbie, which belongs to WBD's studio. And if you look up at all of the basically profit and loss of most of the movies that Marvel has put out, Disney has lost something like $1.5 billion on, Guardians of the Galaxy 4, and I don't even remember what the list of wormed over sequels they put out this year is, but basically their movies have not performed well at all, and the prospects of their movies that are coming in 2024 are really pretty grim. And so I think that if you were sort of looking at which one has the more attractive library, not just for ensuring people stay committed to a service, but for attracting incremental users, I would say that WBD's looks stronger right this minute.
All right, folks, decision time. What do we think? Do we want to invest? Do we believe in this prediction?
So it's not that I don't believe the prediction, because I think they're all trying to partner and consolidate. So in that, I totally get it. I just don't think that that's the way that they're going to reach a younger consumer. So it's like, yeah, they're going to get more titles, better titles, people that'll keep coming, be stickier, but I don't think it'll be with a younger. So I'm like half in.
Half in? Okay, it's not really a thing.
Is this if I invest in this, do I not invest in others, or can I invest in?
You can invest in them all. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
you're rich, Paul.
I'm in.
I mean, he does have a butler, so.
You do have a butler, yeah. Why do you? Let's not get into it. Suzy, you're half in. Yeah. Okay, it's not really a thing, but Paul,
I'm in.
Oh, you're in. Wow. Okay. Oh, Max, I'm so sorry, mate. I think I'm out. I think it's a great idea, but I don't think they're going to do it. I mean, the prediction here is they'll buy them in 2024. And given that, I was just looking up Apple's acquisition history, I think Beats was the most they've spent in 2014. 10 years ago, $3 billion. That was their biggest acquisition. Given that WBD is valued at, 27, 28 billion, I don't think they're going to. I think it makes sense, but I don't think they will next year, so I'm out.
That brings up a good question. So are we voting on just the prediction or the underlying logic?
No, the prediction. The prediction, yeah. Because you can say I agree with the logic, but yeah, will it happen?
Yeah.
Will he hit?
In that case, I'm not in. So
come on.
Pull the funds.
No. I mean, because
brutal.
To my point earlier, I mean, I think when we predicted acquisitions, we've generally not gotten them. And I think that this is probably not going to happen this year. Certainly not in the first half of this year.
Yeah.
But
Max,
again,
if you get this right, I'll buy you a crown.
It's not. I think Max made great
a crown
arguments.
Better be gold.
Better be purple like WBD.
I still think the idea is a good one, right? Like the idea that partnerships and needing to figure out how to get stickier as competition grows is important. Which leads me to mine.
Oh, here we go. Okay, we're moving on. So, Suzy, you're next up.
Did you like that transition?
I see what
that
you
was
did.
very smooth.
I see what you've done.
You're still my enemy for not investing in my idea, but let's hear yours.
I did half
Suzy.
in versus the others who did not in. So
half in means nothing.
Yeah, half in means it's a good idea. I just don't have the money.
She believes in you. She's moral support.
That's right. That's
Suzy,
half the
minute
battle.
on the clock. First pitch.
Okay, so it's kind of in line with this idea of partnerships. And given our not great track record on acquisitions, I wanted to do an acquisition, but I'm not going to because we know I love winning. But I do think that movie theaters will turn into metaverse playgrounds. And what do I mean by that? We saw overnight AMC during COVID went from $1 billion in market cap, a little bit more than $1 billion, to zero. Overnight, the volatility that happened was unsurmountable for them in many ways. So they have to think of new ways to bring in consumers. And what did they do? The Swiftie movie. So they brought a live concert that people couldn't get tickets to in a very, very short amount of time to theaters. And then that inspired, which I have it. It was $100 million in North American ticket sales in the first weekend. And then that inspired the Beyoncé film, which was 2 hours and 50 minutes that just released December 1st. And that first weekend brought in $20 million. And so they're starting to dabble AMC in live concert type events. So it's just a matter of time that Roblox is going to buy them because Roblox is a much larger market cap and turn AMC theaters into metaverse playgrounds, including movies.
Whoa.
Well, because I think there's also this whole idea around people like digital experiences, but they also like the real life stuff, right? So what better than that combination? Max, I'm seeing it. Did you see Max? Max is on my side over here.
He walked off. He went off camera.
He did not.
Just got up from his seat.
He nodded.
He went to get his money. He went to get his wallet.
Thank you.
Open the vault,
looks like I've
said.
got 2 ins.
Wait, so what's the tell me more about the business model. If Roblox buys it, what are they selling here? Like what's
Roblox,
product,
I also
service?
checked the market. I think market cap is an important measure, right? So like Roblox is $25 billion. Did you guys even know it was that big? $25 billion.
Wow. Same as Warner Brothers Discovery.
And AMC is $1.3 billion. Like AMC, and they were obviously bigger before COVID, but still, it's not that much, right? So originally, you could say like the big player is going to buy the little player, but in this case, Roblox, which we would think is the little player, is not. And so I think it would be like a multifaceted experiences. The theaters are there. They've been trying to do afternoon matinees. It's not working super well. The theater experience has definitely changed with the seating and the food offerings and trying to make it a date night. But there's also a lot of empty space that's underutilized. And so Roblox could do activities there, whether it's gaming nights, whether it's gaming afternoons. It would bring in a younger customer. Hopefully it'll be a little bit less expensive because like the movies now, I think it's like $20 to $25 for one ticket. Like that's a lot. If you're a family of 4, that's a lot to go to the movies, right? I think we just need to add a little bit of extra fun stuff, but keep the popcorn.
Thank goodness. I was nearly out on the idea till then. Gents, what do you think?
When I first saw because I don't know if it's giving away too much to our audience to say that we shared like a very quick, non-specific, one sentence on each of these ahead of time, just to make sure we weren't all doing the same ones. So when I saw the idea of theaters being turned into VR playgrounds, it seemed intriguing enough. I mean, I was still a little skeptical as to whether that can be a mainstream play for movie theaters or a niche play. But I think that throwing Roblox into the equation and everything you said, Suzy, about like the Taylor Swift and Beyonce films, to be honest with you, that kind of muddied it for me because I don't see Roblox as like a key partner here. If anything, I see the potential for a Meta or Sony or Apple or Samsung, one of the companies that makes VR equipment, to partner with AMC and say, we're going to show this film in a more immersive way, and you can, they would market it as, like some kind of joint thing. But I see something more along those lines than like an outright acquisition.
Totally hear you, but sorry, I'm going to cut you off because it's not so much about the AR, VR, like 3D movies and like IMAX movies, as much as Roblox. Like you can play 3D style games with your friends on your phone on Roblox, right? So the idea isn't so much about it being an IMAX movie of digital life, but it's about how can you bring real life with digital experiences, whether it's with your phone, whether it's like beaming a concert that nobody can get a ticket to that's happening right now at the MetLife Stadium or Madison Square Gardens into the AMC theaters around the world to feel and be part of an experience, but just not be there together. The reason I pick Roblox is because I think the brand value is so strong and poor AMC is not doing super duper well. And the obvious ones are the streaming, but it's like they're competitors, but they're like bedfellows at the same time. So the streaming type services, I just think wouldn't want to be in business with AMC.
I just think that Roblox already has so much equity and they also they don't need necessarily to expand into physical spaces that are very high overhead. Whereas I think
I agree with you on that one, which is why I would not go with the prediction is the movie theaters will turn into metaverse playgrounds. A potential hypothesis of that prediction is the acquisition. But you're right. I think it's a big leap.
So, Suzy, you said you didn't want to go, you said you're not going to go down the acquisition predictions route because it's too difficult. Both of your predictions are literally acquisitions.
No, my prediction is the top line. I'm just giving an example of how that could manifest itself.
Okay.
It's not the same. It's a very subtle difference because I like winning.
Go on, Max.
I was just going to say, you've emphasizing that that's an example rather than the specific of what you mean has brought me back into it. Because
See? I'm a winner, baby.
I will say that I think that it would make even more sense if instead of an AMC, for example, you went with something like a Kimco or a Simon Property Group, because then you have even more space to turn into sort of a strange, mixed reality funhouse. But they're going to have to do something to make these into spaces that people want to visit regularly. Yeah. And at the moment, the, surprise of a Taylor Swift concert movie or the, out of the blue moment of Barbenheimer is not something that these theater chains can rely on anymore.
No.
So,
well, that's the constant stream, right? But I think there are a few smaller startup-y companies that have tried to do what you're saying, like the virtual gaming sort of like Dave & Buster's, but for virtual reality, which is virtual reality, not the metaverse, sort of like it's part of the same, but not all exactly the same. And it's so expensive to buy and, find the right leases, buy the right spots. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I definitely think there's something there. I'm just saying.
All right, let's go. What do we think, gents? Are we in? Are we out?
I'm out.
Pulls out.
That was so fast. It didn't even take a minute to be like, wow, good idea.
You had your time, Suzy. You had your time.
I think there's a lot of goodness in the idea, but...
Thank you.
Pulls out. Max?
But I'm out.
I'm in.
Oh, Max is in. Oh, interesting. That's different for me because I'm out. I think it's, again, good idea. By next year, I don't think so. Especially, Box Office Mojo, looking at North American ticket sales, it's creeping.
Oh, wait a second. You said it's next year?
Yeah, these are 20.
There's no way.
Sorry, Suzy. Max is out.
Love this idea. There's zero chance it happens
by next year. Yeah, Box Office Mojo showing that ticket sales are bouncing back. They're not back to pre-pandemic levels quite yet, but they are on their way. They had the strike to deal with this year as well, and so I think things aren't as dire as they need to be for them to make this kind of a move. Fantastic idea, though. Moving on, Paul. You're next. Your first pitch.
I'm crying over here.
Let's do it. We can see you. You're literally not crying.
I don't like losing.
So my prediction is that the Justice Department will rule that Google violated antitrust law. And this is a very, very complex case. And we are actually going to do a report on not just this, but the Amazon and just antitrust legislation as it's happening in the first half of the coming year. So, it's a lot to get into, but just to put it in a nutshell, there are essentially two parts to this case. One was already the case was already heard in October, I think, and it was mostly focused on search. Phase 2, sometime in 2024, will be focused more broadly on ad tech. And I think that the Justice Department will make a determination that they violated antitrust law, but I also think that the penalties will not be a breakup of Google or anything that dramatically clips their wings in terms of like how they operate their business. It'll be a monetary penalty, which for most of these companies ends up really being a drop in the bucket.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, the first part of the case, they paying Apple to remain the default search engine on all of its devices. And then the ad tech case next year. So, Paul, what tips and scales for you in terms of a Justice Department ruling that they did violate antitrust law?
Well, I think in the case of search, I think there's just a lot of documentation on these exclusive deals and how it's really almost collusion with Apple and Google, both benefiting from the, very convenient arrangement. Google has argued that these defaults are something that you can opt in and out of. I have never seen on my iPhone an option to do so. It doesn't mean it's not there, but it certainly means that it's not being made easy, and that in and of itself can be ammunition for the DOJ. I think when it comes to ad tech, we'll see what comes out of that case, but I think it's a similar situation where Google has done so much to tip the playing field in its favor that I don't think it's going to be hard to make an argument that there have been violations. But again, I think it's a qualified, victory for the DOJ because I don't know if it's going to change things a whole lot going forward.
Paul, do you think they're doing it to set an example and that's why they're going to push to get it over the edge? Or do you feel
I mean, if you start with I'll call it the privacy era, kicked in by GDPR in 2016, I think this idea around consumer privacy, not so much for the companies that are frankly doing a lot of pearl clutching when it comes to being, supposedly privacy centric. And I think Apple is probably the biggest culprit there. But I think when it comes to the Justice Department, I think they are legitimately trying to act in the interest of consumer privacy. So I think they really are looking across these business practices and finding that not only do they go against privacy interests, but they also are very anti-competitive. And that's really this is about monopolistic practices. So I think that, the DOJ is just looking at those across, all businesses. And when they see one, especially with companies as prominent as Google or Apple and Amazon, it's natural for them to take up the case.
And to show them they're serious by finding them $2 billion.
Exactly.
Right?
Oh,
Well, that's the thing. I feel like protecting consumers is important, but they just haven't, the lobby groups, the legal teams, like these companies like Amazon, the same thing was going on with Amazon and getting out of Amazon Prime subscriptions. I just think that the companies are such well-oiled machines to combat this that it's almost like the Department of Justice puts it on for a show. Like, let us show you what we can do so that the smaller companies who can't combat it will just fall in line. But the big ones will figure out how to get around it.
All right, decision time, folks. Are we in or are we out? The DOJ will rule in 2024 that Google violated antitrust law.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Whatever happened with the Amazon Prime? Where did they land on that? I mean, Amazon had many different problems with the Department of Justice, but that particular one, do we know?
Don't think they've ruled yet.
They haven't ruled yet.
Yeah. So I'm not in favor.
You're not in.
I don't support. Yeah, I'm not investing. I don't know what the right words are.
Okay, you think Google will get out of it?
Yeah,
you think there won't
like
be any
Amazon, they'll just coast through, figure out different paperwork to send them, and like just make it so long that nobody wants to deal with it anymore.
Max,
I'm in. I feel like this feels very, very reasonable to me. I think that as much as Google has tried to sort of muddy the water, as Suzy described, I do think that the case that the AGs have here is pretty airtight to show that something anti-competitive was allowed to sort of take root. And I also buy the argument that the punishment for the crime will be unsatisfying to everybody except Google's gigantic legal team. So I am investing.
Yeah, I'm in too, because I think that it will get proven that they did something wrong according to the law. But I think the penalty will be high for most folks in the billions, but it will be borderline meaningless for Google, who made $280 billion last year, or at least for Alphabet in $280 billion. Google made $224 billion. So even if it's a $20 billion fine, it's barely 10% of what they made last year. So I think it'll be pretty inconsequential, but I do think that it will happen. All right, folks, that's where we'll leave it for today. We'll have 3 more very specific but highly unlikely predictions for you in tomorrow's episode. That's all we've got time for today, though, unfortunately. Thank you so much to my guests. Thank you to Suzy, Paul, and Max. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks to Victoria, who edits the show, James, who copy edits it, Stuart, who runs the team, and Sophie, who does our social media. Thanks to everyone for listening in. We hope to see you tomorrow for more predictions on the Behind the Numbers Daily and eMarketer podcast made possible by Affinity Solutions.